Hello everyone, I'm Celeste, and today I'll be reading you a Japanese horror story from Saya in Underworld titled Sick God. I hope that you enjoy, and I hope that you have the loveliest of dreams tonight. Let's get started. A long time ago, my family thrived as onmyoji, and because of that, I have a rather unusual surname. For some reason, the women of the family have always been born with stronger power than men, so strange as it may seem, it is always women who get designated as the master of the house. But with so much mixing of blood, the power has diminished, and in recent years, up until my generation, my grandmother was the only woman who was gifted with the power to ward off evil. All my grandmother's sons, including my father, have ordinary jobs. However, I was born with the power. Grandmother said that it was because I happened to be born on the death anniversary of someone from many generations ago who had a very strong spiritual power. My peculiar family, combined with my power, meant that I had scary experiences almost every day during my childhood. Ghosts are usually invisible unless you can tune in to them. I often saw things that others could not, and because of that, my classmates and sometimes even my own parents called me a liar. So that was the state of affairs in those days. One day, my classmates, 2 boys, were bullying me as usual, and they locked me up in a small, old, derelict shrine. It was the one place from which my grandmother had always told me to stay away at all costs. I guess the boys thought it would be fun to lock me up in there because I used to cry by the mere mentioning of the place. During the first 10 minutes of being inside, I just kept screaming, begging them to let me out. But somehow, after a while, the taunting by the boys from the outside stopped altogether. All of a sudden, a cold air brushed my cheek. Strangely, I didn't feel it was unpleasant. "You must not turn around." I remember it to be a curiously androgynous but beautiful voice, like the tinkling of a bell. And he touched my hair. It was very long because grandmother had told me to always keep it long. "It is beautiful. I want it." He talked quietly and deliberately. I was overcome by a sudden fear. I remembered then what grandmother had always told me. Because your soul is empty, it becomes a good source of nutrition for those otherworldly creatures. Therefore, if you ever find yourself in danger of being devoured by them, cut off your hair and give it to them. His words, "I want it," echoed in my head. My voice trembling, I managed to say to him at last, "If it's my hair, if it's only my hair, you can have it." My words were hardly out before I heard sticky saliva-like sound from behind, and the back of my neck suddenly became cooler. Oh, he's eaten it. My knees gave out, and I thought I was going to collapse. But hands reached out from behind, and, getting hold of my waist, they slowly lowered my body down. I had never been touched by something not human, and I was surprised. Moreover, I felt my body heat gradually begin to drop. I apparently fell asleep after that. When I awoke, I found myself riding piggyback on one of the boys. They were both crying, and for a moment I was distracted by their voices, but I could hear some footsteps following me from behind. The boys told me they tried to open the gate to let me out, but somehow couldn't open it. After a while, I came out of the shrine by myself, but they were shocked to see my hair had become shorter, and the next thing they knew, I collapsed in front of them. Also, they told me they got chased by some white mist-like thing. I thought we must go home quickly, and tried to tell them, but my mouth wouldn't open, and bit by bit, my eyesight too was growing blurry, Only my sense of hearing was becoming disproportionately sharper, and I could hear the footsteps behind us getting louder and louder. I struck the boys back hard and climbed off. I then firmly gripped both of their hands and started running. The footsteps were now even louder than before. My instinct told me that if I lost my eyesight completely, I would die, and the boys would die too, and this realization terrified my young heart. I kept running through the country roads toward the head family's house, where I knew grandmother would be. As I came nearer to the house, I saw the blurry image of the house's gate. In front of the gate stood grandmother. Strangely, I could see grandmother very clearly. It was such a relief to see her, and all I wanted to do was run up to her, but grandmother glared at me vehemently and shouted, "Throw those boys inside first, so you were the last to go in." I was scared to death and could do nothing but follow her order. I let go of the boys' hands and pushed them inside the gate, and I flew in immediately afterwards. Grandmother walked in after me. Inside the house, I saw the mothers of the 2 boys dressed in white kimono. "So you've been to the shrine." Grandmother was furious, but all I could do was open and close my mouth soundlessly like a fish. By then, my eyesight was nearly gone, and I had lost the power of speech. Grandmother touched my lips. She had taken some peculiar-smelling rouge out and smeared it all over them. Instantly, I regained my voice. I started making some excuses, but she would take none of it, and just dragged me to the room where the boys were. The room was protected by sacred texts. She then told me the following things. The one who was following me just now was a god. He was the god of a shrine that was very popular in the olden days, but one time, when there was famine, he was offered a human sacrifice, and since then, he had become sick. He had taken a liking for me and devoured my shadow. At that point, I realized I no longer had a shadow. He did not eat my kami, hair, but he ate my kami, God, who had been with me since my birth. It was because my God had been taken away that my eyesight was nearly gone. I was someone who should have died at the age of 3 had it not been for the God that was originally with me. I was able to speak now only because of grandmother's power, and my voice had not completely come back yet. The 2 boys were now cursed because they had bullied someone who was the god's favorite. Then, finally, she told me she would now perform the Kami Oroshi. The mothers of the 2 boys had been called so that they could become scapegoats if things went wrong. The boys and I were all very sorry for what we had done and cried. And my grandmother looked at me straight into my eyes and said, "For you, there is no scapegoat, because you are unique. There is no one who has the same level of spiritual power as you. You might die. Even with my power, I cannot ward off a god, so I will bring him down in you. Take my heed. As long as your soul does not fall into darkness, you will be safe." I cried, imagining that thing entering my body, but grandmother said if I stayed the way I was, I would be devoured by him when I died. Also, the boys would be exposed to danger if she didn't bring him down in me. How could I refuse her plan after hearing all that had been said? It was all I could do to nod in agreement. It was decided that grandmother would now take me outside through the gate. But as I walked through the gate, my eyesight completely went black, and I fainted. I don't know what happened during the time I was unconscious, but when I came to, I was lying in my own room in the furthest back of the house. I was sure someone had been stroking my hair, but there was no one around me. Even as I sat up in my bed, grandmother came in and uttered only one word. "He is here." Oh, so he's gone inside me. I understood, but I felt nothing strange about it. So he was the one who had been stroking my hair, I thought. For the next 7 days, I was ordered to do misogi every day, and at night grandmother always stayed with me until I fell asleep. I also had a dream every single day during this period. I don't know if it was the memory of his past, but again and again, I felt the deep sadness which he felt on that fatal day when he succumbed to eating human flesh. Maybe it was just a dream, but I felt he truly loved humans, and I felt guilty and very sad, thinking he probably would have let me go without problems if I hadn't said I would give him my hair. That's the end of the story of him who lies within me. There are many other strange things that happened to me, but I started having less of them since he came to be with me. I'm now a high schooler, and I have a feeling that I might end up succeeding my grandmother's business. If I find there are many people who want to know more about my other stories, I might post them too. My clumsy writing must have been hard to follow, but thank you for reading it until the end.